Hello everyone. So in this project we're going to build a student portal with Django. So it is one place where students can take notes, schedule their homeworks, add to-do list, and perform searches like in dictionary, Wikipedia, YouTube, and books. So it'll just list them the results and we can open them in the website. So it all provides these in a single dashboard. So users have to log in for to access things like making notes because it's for a separate user, right? And these searches need not be a separate user, so anyone can perform it. So I'm just going to show you how it works. So this is the home page and these are the facilities that the user can have. So right now I did not log in, but I need to log in to access any of these notes or anything. So I'm just going to log in with my test user. Okay, so that it redirects me to notes. So here I can create a new note and I can say new note and some random text here. So if I create it, just appears here. But if I have multiple letters, it won't show the entire letters. I need to open them here and I can have a detailed look at them. And I can delete them if I want. And it will be deleted. So I can access books. So I can just search for books like 7 habits. So it will show me 7 habits of highly successful people. So these are just API, with the help of API. So if I click them, they'll just open to this preview tab provided by books.google.com, and I've restricted it to 10 searches, so that's why it's showing me 10 searches. And then Wikipedia, it's kind of similar. We have to enter any name and it'll just show them in this result here. Okay, so I can just click on the link and it'll just open the Wikipedia link for me. So now dictionary is similar, and oops, I need to hide this icon. Enter research, for example, incorrigible. Okay, so it provides me name and phonetics, and I can even
Incorrigible.
use the speaker, and here it provides a definition with an example with synonyms. Okay, and I can perform YouTube searches as well. So I'm going to use search keyword which is Tesla, and it will show me videos that are related to quite recent videos on Tesla. Okay, so I've limited it to only 5 searches, but we can have more if you want, and just redirect me to wherever I want. So these are all just API calls. And so to-do list, I can add a to-do, for example, wake early, go to gym, buy groceries, for example. So I can delete them and it will be deleted, but until I mark them as completed, it will show in my profile. So here I have all my to-dos as due, right? But these are just I got to complete. But if I mark them completed here, it'll stay here, but in my profile it won't show because that's kind of prioritized. And I can delete from here as well, and I can just, if I unmark it, it'll still show me in the profile. So right now I don't have any homework. Let's add one. So subject is science. I'm just gonna say periodic table, device periodic table, whatever. And I can set a due date, so it'll just show me the due date whenever it is, and I can create it, so it'll just show me here and also in my profile. Okay, but if I mark it as completed, it'll just be vanished, but it'll stay in my profile, I mean in my homework tab, as long as I delete it. But if I mark it as complete, it'll just show me in my profile. So that's for one user, and I think I've shown everything except conversion. So conversion is just basic conversion between metric with length. For example, if I choose length, just ask me to enter the length. So I just have 2 examples for now. So I need to convert foot to yard. So what is 1 foot? So 1 foot is 0.333 yard, and I can select mass. So mass is, I just have pound and pound to kilogram. So if I say what is 1 kilogram, and we'll just convert it. And that's it. I think I've shown you everything. Yep, we have login and registration page. So register page allows to create new users with only password and confirmation. So everybody can use it. But yeah, they cannot access few of these. It will just always ask me to register or log in before I access few of this. But I do can access things like dictionary without logging in, because it's not going to depend on anything. I just need to hide this, because here I can just say awesome, and it'll just show me.
Awesome.
So this is the project we are going to build, and so I provide a quick go through of what we are actually doing. So for operations like to-dos, homework, and notes, we are just performing CRUD operations on the Django models, and we will just store them according to users and filter them according to which user is actually logged in. Okay, and we are just making API calls in pages like dictionaries, YouTube, Wikipedia, and books. So I'm just using Google's API here, and Wikipedia's API, and YouTube's, and so on. So we saw all the features: login, registration, notes, to-dos, homework, and profile page that shows only incomplete works, and dictionary rendering YouTube results, books, and Wikipedia, and measurements. So we're just going to cover all these in this video, in this project. And this is the roadmap of how I'm going to exactly proceed. So we'll start with covering the basics of Django, and we'll immediately move to login and registration systems. So we're not going to discuss about ER diagrams. It's just simple tables and almost a easy relationship between just one user table. So I'll just walk you through when we are using the models, databases in the creating to-do section. But first, we'll just focus on searching with the API. So we'll just perform API calls on dictionary, YouTube, and so on. And afterward, we'll move to saving these to-dos, homework, and notes. And here we'll talk about Django models and form. So it's going to be pretty easy. We are going to delete them, create the new entries, and so on. Measurement converter we saw is going to convert between basic pound measurements, and so on. But we are not using any JavaScript, and that's why the form always kind of reloads every time we're just clicking any forms. It's because we are not performing any AJAX request in JavaScript. We are just using pure Django with some additional HTML and CSS, which is essentially needed for web development, designing. Sorry. So we need to have these models installed. So Python, as we said, virtual environment, it helps to keep all the packages for a project in a good way. And Django, as we saw, I'm just going to use Django 3.1.5. You can use anything about 2.2. Yep. And Wikipedia is just a module that is provided, an open source module. So we can use this to perform API calls on Wikipedia. And YouTube Search Python is another module. So we're going to be needing this. And Crispy Forms is just going to be useful for us to render the forms in a neat way. So I'm not good with CSS while rendering forms, so Crispy Forms is going to help me. So I'll just add a tag filter called Crispy, and it will automatically render the forms beautifully for me. So up next we'll be covering the basics of Django and few installations, and right after that we'll be covering login and registration pages. Thank you. Hello everyone. So in this video I'm just going to cover the basic installations and the basics of Django. So first let me start by installing the virtual environment I told you in my last video. So this is important to keep the projects in an organized way. Say if you have a Python project which has built with Python 3.3 and you want to create another project which requires Python 3.8. Now if you install the Python 3.8 globally, the Python 3.3 project may not be able to run anymore. So it's like the code is broken. For it to run, you may need to install the Python 3.3 packages and so on. So in order to avoid those kind of circumstances, we will create an environment and inside those environment it is going to install the packages for a particular project only. So it will help to maintain a lot of projects that we have. So I'm just going to cd in my project folder and create a new folder called demo. And here in our I will just create a new environment. So pip so python -m virtual env, and the name of the environment can be whatever you want. I'm just going to call it environment. Okay, the environment is created, and you can see it just created a folder here. So now to activate the environment, just need to navigate to the scripts, and we're just going to activate the bat file. So activate.bat is a file inside environment and scripts. This is going to enter as is, and can see that we are in this environment for now. So the environment has been created in this step, and we are just activating the environment in this step, and it is indicated by this starting. And in order to deactivate, we can just run the command with deactivate.bat, and it will remove that, and we are no longer in that environment. So we're just going to activate this environment, and while in this environment we're just going to install Django. So I'm just going to install Django 3.1.5 in this video, but I recommend using Django 2.2 or above. It's because Django 2.2 is known to be around, it will be in the scope for at least 5 years, but I hope Django 3.1.5 will be too. If you want to install any particular Django version, you just provide the version like this and it will install it for you. So I'm just going to install mine as 3.1.5. Okay, so now we have Django installed. We can now start a Django project. So we have to use Django-admin start project, and we just give the name of the project here. So I'll just say demo project and hit install. So it will just create a folder called demo project, and I'm going to cd into this project. Let me open the same project in my atom, and let's see the file structure here. So python project, and okay, so we need to make sure that we are in this manage.py directory, and as well as in the command prompt. You can see when I hit dir, you can see the manage.py. So we are just going to kind of work around it. So since we are in this, we created a project, let's run the project to see what happens. So in order to run the project, we just say python manage.py and run server. We will create, we'll work on this project by using this python manage.py, and we provide extra arguments, command line arguments like start app and so on. So it is going to run the project for now. So it says python manage.py and run server. So it is now running on this URL. So this is the local host at port 8000. So I can just copy it and paste it in my browser, and you can see that this shows the Django default page. So it says that our Django has been quite successfully installed, and we are just good to go. You can also use the URL by localhost and at port 8000, and it will just do the same here. So I'm just going to be using localhost colon 8000 for the entire project. Okay, so let's see the Django file structure for now. So manage.py is the actual main file in which it calls the main application and keeps it to run, but we won't be using any of these. And db.sqlite3 is the database that we will use for the project. So after I run this Django admin, it created a database project for me. And you can see that settings.py and urls.py, and we'll just go more of it later. But settings.py actually contains the apps project settings in overall. So a Django project contains several apps. Okay, there might be multiple apps within the same project. It helps to keep the project in an organized way. For example, I can have an app called users, and inside it I can manage all the login, logout, and managing the users logic and so on. And I can have another app for e-commerce where I can just add the logic for buying, selling, and stuff related to e-commerce. Okay, so apps provide those kind of functionalities where we will focus on a particular application and work on it. And it provides high reusability as well. We can use this apps created here in other projects or in other types in where we want. Okay, so let's start by creating an app now. So the server is running. Not to stop the server from running, you can use Control C or Command C. Okay, and I'm just going to create a new app. So I'll say python 3 manage.py start app, and I'm just going to call it my app. So this is the name of the app. We can create according to our project, but since this is a demo demo video, I'm just going to start a simple app here called my app. And you would have noticed this folder called my app is created here, and it contains files like admin.py, models.py, tests, views, and so on. We'll be mainly focusing on models and views. Okay, so Django follows MVT architecture. So M stands for model, B for views, and T for template. Models.py file is actually where we provide the database logic. We don't actually provide any SQL commands. We're just going to create the database tables in Python only. And it's actually very easy to create databases. And it's actually managed, the Python Django framework manages it very well. We're just going to use models.py for that. So where every table will be a class and so on. And we cover the M, which is models, and V is the views. Here we will implement the actual logic for our applications. We're just going to use any kind of logic, matplot. So if I want to plot matplotlib, I can use it here. I can use science, scikit-learn, and other kind of Python project codes that the logic will be actually residing in here. Okay, so we'll talk more about on this later. And T stands for template. It's just a HTML file that we are just going to show on the application. So template actually can render something called Django template language. We'll be able to use Python, a bit of Python code there, but it's quite a bit different. We'll talk about that. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just going to use the euros.py for this project. Okay, so a project contains euros.py. An app can contain urls.py as well, but I don't have any urls.py here. I'll just create it in a bit later on. Okay, so you can see a path called admin here. It means that whenever your user after this localhost 8000, whatever he types something here, so if it is an admin, we're just going to route him to this particular logic. Okay, so since I have admin, will just be it's provided by Python by default. We'll just be implementing more of these. So I can have another path like this, and which means it just says this page. Okay, so right now this page is hosted by the Django default page, and I didn't provide any logic for it to here, and I did not save it, and I did not run it actually. So whenever this means like whenever the user hits only the domain name, which is localhost, and if we actually have actually deployed the project, whatever the domain name, the default kind of the home page will be provided by this logic. Okay, so localhost 8000 will be removed, and whatever comes after it will be handled by this logic. So I'm just going to handle this logic in the my app that I created. Okay, so I'm just going to use include. This might feel a bit strange for now, but I'll just show you in a bit what we are exactly doing. So include my app dot urls. Okay, so before that I forgot to mention an important thing. Whenever we hit start app command, we just need to go to settings.py as soon as possible because we might forget, and we should include this app inside this installed apps list. Okay, so I created an app called my app. I'm going to type here dot apps dot my app config. So it's just the name of the app, the first letter is capitalized followed by a config, or you can just copy this last bit from this class name in the apps.py. So this is the class name, and that's what we are exactly providing here. So we are just actually saying to the Django that we have a project and we created an app called my app. I want to include this app to this Django project. That's what we are exactly saying. Without this, Django will not consider this application. So what I'm doing is, whenever there's a URL called localhost 8000 without any like admin or anything so on, I'm just going to like forward this to my urls.app. So right now we're just in the project's URLs, but apps can contain their own URLs. So I'm going to create urls.py, and it should be exact this name of the file. Okay, here I'm just going to get this. Okay, so let me just go to views.py for now. So views.py, as I said, it contains the logic for our application. So I'm going to create a function called home here, and it will take a request object, and I'm going to return something, an HTML file, an HTML document property. So I'm going to say from django.http import http response with h and t capitalized here. I'm going to return an http response. Inside it, I'm just going to say hello world. So you know HTML how it goes, like h1 tag and hello world, and I'm just closing this HTML tag. Okay, so what I'm trying to actually achieve is, I'm just going to render this HTML tag that says hello world to this URL. So whenever I hit this localhost 8000, it should display this hello world message. Okay, so it is in the views.py in hello world. So we just need to tell Django that that our URL should point to this views function. Okay, so right now you have transmitted the URL, you kind of passed the URL to app specifically. So we have this app, so whatever URL comes down with this, it is going to forward it to apps. And then in the urls.py, I'm just going to, this is an app urls.py, so I'm just going to copy this code, the path I don't need to include there, and I'm just going to paste it. Okay, and here I'm going to copy this list, but I won't be needing this admin and all because it's already taken care of by the main project. So here I'm just telling, let me import views now. So from dot import views. So what I'm telling is, in this directory, which is the urls.py is here, right? And in the same directory there's a file called views.py, and from that I'm just going to import views from this directory. Okay, and views contain a function called home, right? I've created a function called home, and it will return a HTTP response, and I'm just going to use this views.home, and I'll just provide a name here, users home. I'm sorry, my app home. This is because many apps can contain the same keyword like home. In order to differentiate the my apps home, I'm just going to say like my apps home. Yeah, it's not like compulsory, we can have any name we want, just to be specific enough. So up till here, what I've done is I've created a new app and included in my installed app settings, and I've saved it. And in this main project app, I'm just saying whenever a URL contains an empty string after the local host, I'm just going to let the app, my app, take care of it. So my app.urls is going to take care of it from now. So after that, you'll just be coming here to this url.py here, and I'm just going to import views. What I'm saying is, whenever a path like this without any string comes on, I'm just going to call this function views.home. Okay, so views.home, what it does is going to return an HTTP response that says h1 hello world. So if I save all of these and run this application now, python 3 manage.py run server. Oh, my app is not defined. It should be in a string. My bad. Okay, so it's just like a live server. So whenever I hit save on any of these major files, it will just reload the server itself. I don't need to like run it every time. But so now if I run it, you can see the hello world is displayed here. Okay. So that's how we are just going to render the HTML. But I'm not going to add HTML here. Like it'll be probably hundreds of lines, and I don't want to mess the views. So for that, I can say, yeah, what I can do is I'm just going to create an HTML file. So I'm not going to create an HTML file directly. There's a template, the hierarchy here. So inside this user, I mean my app, I'm just going to create a new folder called templates. And inside this template, I'm just going to create an exact folder with the name of the app. So it should be like this: my app, templates, and again my app. And only in this folder, I'm just going to create the new HTML file. I'm just going to call it test.html. Okay, and here I'm just going to use the HTML syntax, and I'm going to use this is from the template. So here I render the HTML directly, but I just need to route this request. Whenever a request comes in, I'm just going to render an HTML page here. Okay, so right now this is not linked, so I can do is return render request. Yeah, I'll just talk about the request object in a bit. So this is residing, there's test.html residing in my app slash test.html. So you might be confused with this path, but by default the templates will be searched in this my app and templates, and here it will be searched. But in order to differentiate from many apps, I'm just going to create a new folder here, my app, and inside it I'm going to create test.html. It is just how Django recommends it. We can create it inside the templates directly without this folder, but it helps us to keep it organized. So what I'm saying is I'm going to pass this request object, and I'm using the HTML template which I've just shown here. So if I save it now and run this, yep, now it says this is from the template. Okay, so that's exactly how we're just going to build it. In order to avoid like hundreds of HTML lines of code and to maintain it easily, we're just going to do this. Okay, so with this in mind, up next we're just going to import the logic for our application, probably starting with model start. Okay, so now let's talk about home page of portal. Okay, so just going to have this cards. So it's just I'm using bootstrap cards and displaying these images in the home page, and every image is attached to a link, so YouTube, to do, and so on. So in order to have these images, we need to have static files. Okay, so static files are the files that we are actually going to use in our development. For example, CSS files, JS files, they all belong in the static files. And I don't know what I changed. Okay, so let me close everything and go to the static. Okay, so you could have noticed a folder called static files, and everything, every CSS and images I'm having in this folder. So it will be, yeah, kind of the way to serve these files to HTML and so on. Whereas on the other hand, the media files will store the user uploaded images, files, PDFs, and those kind of things. So in this tutorial, we won't be uploading any image from the user. It will be just form text, so we don't need media files for that. So in order to have the static files, we need to go to settings.py and have the static file set up. So we need to say that our static URL is going to be this, this static URL inside our where the manage.py lies. So this is the base directory. So any manage.py lies is the base directory, and the static files are going to be in this base directory plus static. So why are we having this? Is because during development, so we are actually working on development. We did not actually post it in the server, for example, Apache server and so on. So right now, every page is served by Django development environment. Django development server. But while we are actually deploying, these files may not be served by Django. Another web servers like Apache will take place. So for those kind of things, we need these static files to be set up like these, and we can then create a static folder. So in our HTML base.html template, you will notice that we have this load static. So we are just saying we're just accessing these, we are loading every static files in this HTML file, and we are going to access HTML file like CSS by saying that it's href static, and we are just providing the path. Okay, so by default the static will search inside the static folder, but our CSS is not inside the static folder directly. It is inside CSS main.css. That's why I'm accessing it here. So I'm saying all these things not just because of CSS, it's because our homepage has these images. So I downloaded these free images here from unsplash.com, so credit to those photographers. So I'm just saying, in order to access these images, I have them in the home.html. Okay, so I loaded the static files here. I just need to access the home.html now, which is in dashboards, templates, and home.html. Okay, so here I don't actually need to import static. Should work fine because I imported okay, yeah, we actually need the static files here as well. So it's not just in the base.html, so we need to use wherever we are actually using these static files. It's because we are just using this keyword called static, right? It will not be defined unless we use this word called static. So I'm just using bootstrap cards here. So dot card, so row, so every row contains 4 columns. So we're just using column MD3 because there will be maximum 12, so 12 by 3 is 4, and inside this whole card I'm providing it as link. So whenever I click on this anywhere in this card, it will just go to the appropriate link. Okay, so I have this card, and card image top is just where I'm defining the images. So it's static, and the notes.jpg lies in the static, and image is called notes.jpg. Okay, so now since I have this, my link to this will be notes. It's because it's a notes app, right? And for apps like homework, the link will be homework. So I'm just saying the URL tag and URL notes. So likewise, I'm defining every functions and associated with that. Okay, so since we have these images, we can link these appropriate files. So in this video, we're just going to see links like YouTube, and dictionaries, books, and these four things. So you'll just accessing some properties, and we get a JSON response in back. And we will just render the pages. For example, for YouTube, when I search something, it will be a JSON response, and I'm just rendering these responses in a card. And whenever I click on this card, it will just go to this URL. Okay, so that's what is exactly happening now. So in order to have these, I have these already set up. That is, so for every link, so I have these links like the home page, notes, homework, YouTube, right? So in the urls.py, dashboard, urls.py, I have all of these set up. So these are the 8 tasks that we'll be doing. Okay, but these are some additional works we'll take care of when we come to notes, to do, and homework. It's because we need to access some database and perform some operations when we delete and so on. So I have this set up. So path, notebook, homework. So now a request called this appears. I'm just going to execute this particular view, and the name of this view, the name of this URL is conversion. Okay, so I just have this setup, and in the views.py, I'm actually having this views on notes, homework, to do, and so on. So in this, we'll just focus on dictionary, wiki, YouTube, and conversion. So it might seem like a lot, but what we are actually doing it, we are not actually doing conversion, we're actually doing books. So what we are doing is, we're just accessing some URL, or in case some modules like wiki, we're just appending to the text, and we're just requesting to the URL, and it will send a JSON response, and it will contain a lot of other information, but I'm just restricting it to only our application. For example, if I search in YouTube, the response will be, it contains many details like larger thumbnails, subtitle, and channel playlist, and those kind of things. But I do have only required things like thumbnail, video title, description, duration, and so on. Okay, so first let's start with Wikipedia. Okay, so this is going to be very similar. So options, wiki. So whenever this wiki comes in, this will be executed. So before that, I'm just going to use the basic form, which contains only one field. This form, only this form. Okay, so I'm just having a char field, and I'm just have this label as enter your search and max length as 100. So this form will be used in every of the 4 operations. For example, you can see enter your search, this in Wikipedia, and if I go to dictionary, it will be the same, enter your search. And if I go to books, this is the exact same form I'm using for all of these 4s. So in this form, I'm just saying I'm going to only have a text field, and this text field is going to have a char field. This is just a char field, that's I'm just naming it as text, and this is the form I'm going to render it here. So for the first time, whenever I just go to this URL, which means I did not press the submit button yet, I'm just going to instantiate this form and pass it as a context. Okay, so form. So whenever this form will be rendered. So if I go to wiki.html, I'm just rendering this form, and inside this form tag. Okay, so this will be the form. So whenever I hit on submit, it'll just post the method equal to post, and in this I am now brought to this section, if condition. Okay, so since let me enter a text called something like Elon Musk or 7 habits a book, right? Okay, sorry, I just go to Wikipedia, Nikola Tesla. So now this request.post contains this text as a dictionary argument. Okay, so this kind of like dictionary, and it is because text. Yeah, it is text because I have this name as text, and since I entered the value and submit it here, the text value will be Nikola Tesla. So in my example, so I'm just retrieving that text whatever the user has entered, and I'm just kind of filling the form again. It's because I want to show what the user has entered even after they have clicked on submit the button. If I don't have this, it's not going to be a big deal. So if I go to Wikipedia again and type Nikola Tesla, but this time the form will be cleared. It's because I'm rendering the form every time, but I like to have this just in case. Okay, so since I have this form, and now I'm just going to use the Wikipedia. So Wikipedia, I'm just importing. So since we have the pip install Wikipedia, so it's just pip install Wikipedia, and it will install it for us. And then we are just importing the Wikipedia, and Wikipedia has some properties that we can use. It has actually many other properties, but we are just using Wikipedia.page text. So this Nikola Tesla, I've just entered it as string here, right? And this will be passed as a text here, and Wikipedia will just fetch many results for us. Okay, and I'm storing it as in search, and in the context I'm actually passing this old form, because even if I submit the form, I need to have this form again. So whenever another request comes in, I need to be able to use this form as well, right? I need to run the server, so that's why I'm having this form again. And for the content, I'm just going to have these three links, these three details. So search has the information that the Wikipedia has returned. Okay, so it passed all the actual JSON formats and neatly gave this for us. If we just use some API like we used in other apps, we just need to manually get the information from these. But this module actually provided us a lot, did a lot of good. So from that, search has search.title, search.url, and search.summary. So search.url contains the link to the Wikipedia. Okay. So that link is I'm actually passing a dictionary. So these three are the details, and I'm passing it as a context. Okay, so in the wiki.html, what I'm having is just having a simple container with content section, which I have the bootstrap class. It's taking so long. Okay, so these are three things. So first one is the title, which is Elon Musk, and the link https wikipedia.org and Elon Musk, and the content. So these three are the things that I'm actually passing to the context, and I'm accessing it as title link, because that's the key for this, right? And it will just replace this, place this value here. Okay, so title, link, and details. So I'm just rendering it quite neatly. I'm not going to show Go CSS, but when you click on this card header, because I wrap this entire custom header inside this link, and it will go to this link. So link contains exactly this one, but when I click on it, it opens a new tab, because href equal to I provided it as link. So Wikipedia is just that it. I'm going to save it. So it is actually very easy, because it actually passed JSON for us neatly, and we were able to access this in a beautiful way. So YouTube is kind of similar, but I did have a lot of details, and that's why. So in order to have YouTube, I'm just going to install something like pip install YouTube search Python. It's not going to, so in the command prompt we're just installing pip install YouTube -search -python. So after this is installed, we're just going to import this. So from YouTube search Python, so this time without any hyphen, just importing video search. Actually, there are a lot of other search, like if you want to search any channels, it will show only the channels, and sometimes only the playlist if you want playlist search, I think that's the name. But in this video, we're just going to focus on the video search and in this project itself. So if as I imported it, it's the same one. So I'm just rendering this same form and passing it to the HTML. And here I'm just kind of rendering this form with the data. But this time I have this text as the search text, and only this is what I want. So videos will be the result of this video search, and I'm just passing the text and limit equal to 5. So limit is just how much I want the page to be shown. Okay, so if I go to the YouTube and if I search like Tesla, it will show me only the first 5 results that it got for me. So if I have limit equal to 10, it will show me 10 results. So I just want to keep it small because it will take some time for me to, in order to fetch the API. So limit equal to 5 will do that. And so this video has the JSON parsed. Okay. So what I'm doing is, unlike Wikipedia, which I have only single result. So Wikipedia, I'm just having one result like Tesla or something, and I'm just showing that one result in a card. But YouTube, I'm showing a lot of other details, right? So this is just a single information, and this is another information, this is another information, and this and this. So I'm just rendering 5 of these. So I'm just iterating to them and making a dictionary every time. So this list is an empty list. So videos.result contains the JSON, and if you see if we print this videos, print videos dot result. So if you print it in the console, actually where is it? It will show this kind of JSON response. Okay, so from this I'm just going to have few details. So from this, your videos.result contains this result, right? So this result contains every result that I want. So all the 5 responses that I showed you. So this result key will contain all the information for these 5. So I'm just fetching a few of this. So results contain an input. In this result, we can see there's a title. Okay, so I'm just fetching the title, and I'm providing it as a key. So I'm just creating this new dictionary. I'm providing the input as text, which I got from for example, Tesla, and this I will iterate through every result of this dictionary, and each time there will be a title for a video. Okay, and I'm just entering this title and using it as title, and the video has duration, and it will be available here. So 958, right? And thumbnail, thumbnail contains a lot of URLs. So thumbnails, and inside there's a URL, and I'm just fetching this URL. Okay, so thumbnails is a list, and I want to access the first element of the list, which is indeed a dictionary. Okay, so this is a dictionary, and inside the dictionary I'm using this URL. Okay, so just parsing the list of dictionaries and nested dictionaries and so on. And channel name, everything I have this. So channel name will be somewhere around here. So I'm just getting this result dictionary every time, except this. This is not actually necessary, but the description is. So for example, in the actual video, some of these are bold. For example, the Tesla letter will be bold, and it will have a separate HTML tag, and the text is kind of breaking. So first it will just return me first look, and in the next text it will return me something. So I'm just kind of looping through text. Actually it's not necessary, but I'm just, so not to get the entire text, I'm just looping through every text and putting it here. And finally the result dictionary is ready. Okay, so I'm creating a new key called this description, and I'm passing this string. Okay, so since every information about this all for one video only, so this just for, so every time is I, so I is going to be 5 because I have only 5 results, and 5 dictionary will be created. I'm appending to this list, so this list will not be refreshed every time, but this dictionary will be created every time. I'm just appending this result dictionary to this result list. Okay, and I'm passing this result list as a context under the name results. Okay, so this results will contain 5 dictionaries like this. So in the youtube.html, which is this, I'm just having this form exactly like the previous way, but this time there will be 5 results. Okay, so this results will be iterated 5 times. So the first time the result will be for this first video. Okay, and I'm creating a card and I'm arranging it. For example, this will be in the left side and this will be in the right side, column md5. So this will take the space of 5 columns and this will take the space of 7 columns, and yeah, those kind of details. So this result has title, right? Because this is a dictionary, so every time this list is nothing but, yeah, result list is nothing but it contains 5 dictionaries. Okay, so first time it is looping to the first dictionary. So the dictionary has fields like input, title, duration, thumbnail, and everything. Okay, so I'm just displaying the result of title, channel, description, duration, result, views, and published. This is the date and so on. And this entire card is wrapped around in a link called result.link. So this is the YouTube link, and target equal to blank allows me to open the link in new tab. So href equal to result.link. So whenever I click on this tab, just open this new tab. So this exact link. So that's why I have it this wrapped around this link, and the thumbnail is also similar. So the thumbnail, I'm just giving the URL. So it's just a URL that is going to download this image and paste it here. So that's what I'm doing for every of these 5 videos. So now let's go to dictionaries. So dictionaries is exactly similar, but we are not using any modules like Wikipedia or YouTube search for that. Okay, so here we are just here. So I'm just rendering this empty form in the dictionary. I just need to remove this, but never mind, it's just an if condition. Okay, so it's going to be exactly similar to those two videos, but what I'm saying is I'm just getting the text from the user. So if I have any word like awesome, so this will be the text that will be here. And so this is the dictionary API that I got, but these kind of URLs are actually rate limited, so I think I cannot access more than 10 in like 1 hour or something. I mean, I did actually get these, but now it's every dictionary API is almost rate limited. For example, Oxford API has 3000 requests per month. Those are free, but after, if you want more than that, you have to pay. Or else you can create your own JSON dictionary, or I think it's available in the GitHub, so you can use this. But for now I'm just using this URL, and this URL I'm just going to show it in the browser now. So I'm just copy pasting it without any URL. So if I have any text like awesome here, it will return me a JSON response. Okay, so is the word awesome, and it has phonetics, and it has the audio link as well, and from this I can get the definition, yeah, which is extremely easy, and yeah, these kind of things. And I have an example, synonyms, and so on. So this is the exact details that I'm going to use through. So in order to use that, we're just going to say URL. So this is the URL we are going to search, right? So we're just appending this text string what we are searching for example awesome. So we're just appending to the URL and request.get URL. So request is just a Python library which is going to import it. So it will request this URL and return whatever this web page returns us. Okay. In our case, it returns a JSON. So this is the JSON, and we are just parsing it as JSON, and it will be the answer. So answer is now dictionary. Okay. So I'm just looping through this dictionary. So answer of 0. So answer this an entire it's a single list, and inside the single list, in the first element I have dictionary. Okay, and in the first dictionary I have the key called phonetics, and this key is having a list. So I'm just using again a 0th element, and this contains the phonetics, which is, I think in this case, this one. So text, right? So this list contains this text key, so I'm just extracting this. So likewise, phonetics has audio and the meanings, definitions, and definitions is actually inside definition. So you can see definition is inside this key definition. So I'm accessing these. So since I have all of these, I'm going to create a new dictionary. But unlike YouTube, I don't have multiple results, right? So it's just going to be a single request. So that's why I don't need to loop over anything. Awesome, let me show you. So I don't need to loop or anything. I just need to give the text for one, phonetics for one input, audio for that same input, definition, example, and so on. So this context I'm actually passing, but if it fails, sometimes this URL may not work, but it's actually working. My side is actually troublesome. Okay, so now it's loaded. So this response, I'm just passing it to the context. Okay. So dictionary.html. So here I'm just having this basic form, and I have this card, and inside I'm just actually rendering this input phonetics, and I have this beautiful audio player that says, yeah,
awesome.
Oh, that was loud. Okay, so I hope that's not loud for you. So now, since I have all of these, whenever the button is clicked, I'm just having a simple one-line JavaScript function. So it has the player that will ask this to play, and have this font icon. Okay, so it will just go to this audio. So this audio is just a URL, like I told you. This URL, it will just go and play here, and that's it. So and then I render this definition, but synonyms is actually, wait a minute, my HTML is wrong here. Okay, but synonyms is actually a list, so it contains a list of synonyms. Where is it? Synonyms. Okay, so breathtaking, amazing. So it's just a list of words. So I'm just going to iterate through this every list. Okay, and I'm just rendering them. Okay, so synonyms is a list, and inside this I'm just rendering this synonym for every situation. Okay, so that's it. Our dictionary as well. So it's mainly about going through this JSON file and analyzing which will give me the input. Actually, there may be more efficient way to render these JSON. For example, going to the children and getting the right word, but I just use this kind of dictionary way. And last, we're just going to see about books. Okay, so books are also quite similar, but I have like around 10 books, so 7 habits. And just like YouTube, I'm just getting the thumbnail, title, subtitle, description, categories, and pages, and the rating of that book. Okay, whenever I click on that, it will go to the preview page. So it is actually the Google API. Let me search Google. Oh no. Yeah, this one. So books. Yeah, as you can see, we're just rendering this empty form, and it's exactly like the dictionary. So I have this API, and whenever I type a text with it, let me just show you. Copy and paste it. Q equal to 7 habits. Yeah, the space doesn't matter, but okay, so it will tell me a list of many books. So in this, I'm just going to go to the items. So this item contains the volume info is actually the most important. So the title contains the book and subtitle and publisher, published date, and description. These are all I'm just going to use. Page count, print categories, and average rating. Yeah, I think that's it. And also the image link and the preview link. So those are all available in this. So I'm just iterating. So I just need 10 results to show here. So as you can see, there's only up to 10. I will need more than that. So I'm just iterating over 10. And yeah, these are all the same. We just got the request and passing it in the JSON and have this in the answer. So now for I varies from 0 to 10. I'm just getting the answer item. So as I said, the item contains the everything as I said, right? So in the items of the first element, okay, so this items is just going to be list. The first list contains information about the first book, and the second element of the list contains information of second book, okay. And inside the volume info there are actually a lot of details like title, subtitle, and so on. So inside volume info I'm accessing the title, and it will just return with this, and I'm just saving it in the key called title, okay. And subtitle is just that. But get is why I'm using get is sometimes some books does not have the subtitle, and some books does not have get description, and in that case I'm just yeah returning nothing. So get will actually allow me to see if the element is not, and it will not return me any error, okay. So that's what I'm using it. Or else if everything is promised that if I'm promised that subtitle will be for every video, I can just use it like this. So likewise I'm just getting everything, and yeah, like that, like the YouTube, I'm just appending to a list of dictionaries, and I'm passing it as a result list. So in the books.html, I'm just having this form and iterating just like the YouTube results. So every result is a dictionary. It contains title, and actually I just copied everything from the YouTube. So category is just going to be multiple categories like this, because categories can be a list. So it's a list, right? So sometimes it may contain many elements. So I have a list, iterating to the categories, and then I'm printing the categories one by one. Okay, and I'm just wrapping the entire card in the URL called result.preview, and the image also has result.thumbnail. So everything is the link that will be rendered here beautifully. Okay, so I think we have covered 4 of the URLs. Up next we'll be covering the notebook and homework feature, login and registration page. So before we do that, we need to actually run a few migrations to create a user. Okay, so in the models.py, I don't assume that I deleted the old app, and this is the project I'm actually working on, and these are just pre-filled values which I'll explain. Okay, so what I'm actually doing is, this is my dashboard app. So this is the app I created with manage.py start app dashboard. Okay, so here I have a file called models.py. So this is where all the database is going to be stored. Okay, so for the first time we won't be having any of these, but as the project goes I'll explain each of them one by one. So we're just going to have a user table which is already provided by Django. So that's the nice feature of it. So user is the class, it's kind of class, and it has fields like username, password 1 and password 2. So for registration page, if we see in our website, in our login, so these are the only 2 fields, and it is entirely provided by Django. But the registration page has fields like username and so on. So we're just going to implement that. So what we need to do is, first, in order to have a username, so these are the fields that I was talking about. So this entire field is having, yeah, is being contained with the default class provided by Django called user. So in order to use that, we just need to run a migration command. Okay, so Python manage.py make migrations. Okay, so after creating an app and after installing the app in installed apps, you just need to make a migration. So right now I don't have any changes because I've already saved it. So make migrations is a command. It will prepare the database to actually it will create a file called migrations folder. Folder called migrations here in our app, and these are all the migrations that I ever did. Okay, so this command creates these files, but the database is not actually created. So the database is created when we run this command called manage.py migrate. Okay, so now it applied migrations like, yeah, admin, auth, and so on. So after this we'll be able to access the users, and yeah, we can actually proceed to registration because we need a user to actually log in, right? So that's why we are creating a user. So not to create a new user, we can say Python manage.py create py create super user, so all in one word, and I can type enter. So it will just ask me for a name for the new user, so I'm just going to say new user. An email address, I can just provide a fake one, and password I'm just going to say at testing at 123 testing at 123. Okay, they did not match. Okay, so since this super user is created, we can go to the admin page to actually view what is happening. Okay, I need to run the project again. So manage.py run server. So I'm just going to log in with the new user and testing at 123. So we're not going to use any admin interface, but I'm just going to show you that it is possible to use admin. So this dashboard will not be shown to you because I've added in my admin.py myself. I actually don't need it as well. So in my apps there's a file called admin.py. I've registered this model that I've created here, but you need not worry about it. I can actually comment this out and run it, and it will not show for me here. But for everyone, the user table will be shown. So this is the users where we can add users. So if I click on users, I can create. So these are all the existing users that I have, and I can add a new user. So it will just ask me for these three fields, which is what we are going to exactly enter it in the registration page. So if you see the, let me log out and click on the registration page. So these are the three fields that is provided by this user table by default. So what we are going to do is we need to create a form using this user table, and we need to render this form in the HTML. And after that we can just route it to the register page and make the user to fill this form, and if they hit the submit button, we're just going to save this username and password. So that's all about it. So let me walk you through one by one. So first we're just going to talk about the urls.py. So there will be two urls.py here, one for the project, the entire project, and one for the app. Okay, so these two are the urls.py. So you can ignore anything, we'll talk about it later. So first we need to include. So what I'm actually doing is, whenever a path without any address, without any specific site, just the domain name comes, we're just going to route it to dashboard.urls, the project's URL. Okay, and it will take care of the remaining. So that means whenever only this request comes, like localhost 8000, I'm just going to forward it to the app URLs, and the app URLs has a view called homes and name it home. So whenever this path comes, it's just going to execute this home page. Yeah, that is in the views.py. So I have few things that will just make this render in the views.py, but for now let's focus on only registration apps. You don't need to worry about this. anything at all. You just comment this out, and but yeah, let it be there, but you don't need to worry. So only thing we need to worry about is these three things: register, login, and logout. So whenever a page called register comes in, okay, so register comes in, we're just going to execute a view called register and name it register. So this name will be used in HTML tag. I mean, we'll just use something like URL name of this. So this will be actually used to route from the HTML or even from the redirection and so on. So instead of providing the entire URL, we just can refer this by name. So actually it is executing the app's URL, apps register. So this app called dashboard has a file called views.py, okay, and I have actually imported that file. So from dashboard import views dash view. So dashboard is an app, it is a directory, and it has a file called views.py. We don't need to provide .py and all, and we're just going to import this as dash view. So we're just going to reference this as dash view. So dash view views has a function called register. So if I open the dashboard and views.py, which is here, and it has function called register, okay. So this is the function. So this is the function which will be executed whenever we search something with the register tag, I mean register domain, okay. So this result will be taken care of by that this view. So here what I have is a registration form, okay. So I'll just talk about it. So let me close everything here. Models, admin, yeah, settings I don't need for now, and URL dashboard, okay. So I have this register view. So what I've done is I've created a form that has these fields: username, password, and password too. Okay, so whenever the first time the user goes to this URL, so this will be else condition. So this will be executed only if I fill the details and hit the submit button. But this, the first time, it will just render an empty form. Okay. So user registration form. I'm just creating a form which contains these three fields, and I am passing it to this HTML. Okay. So in HTML, I'll be able to reference this u form as. So inside the HTML, I just need to type this as u_form. Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what I'm going to type in the HTML. So that will be rendering this form. But I do have additional details like join today and all. So, but that will be doing it. So it is going to render a HTML page that is called register.html. So in the dashboard, you have this templates and templates. So this is the place where it will look for the files like these. So I just have a dashboard and HTML file. So I'm just going to render it. Okay, so I'll just render this form called uform inside it. Okay, that's what exactly I'm doing in the template here. But before showing that, I need to talk about this form. How did I create this form that has these fields? Okay, so let me open the forms.py. So by default, this app does not have a forms.py, so we're going to create it. Okay. So you can ignore anything like below these and focus on only this and these. Okay. So by default, the forms.py, I mean, if it does have it, so we're just going to import from forms. Actually, we don't need this import for our form here, but we just need it for every other forms. So what you're going to do is from the models, we're just going to import star. Actually, this also we don't need because we're just importing models from in these categories, so you can ignore these for this section. Okay, so as I said, Django has a default user table which has the fields like username, password, and password too. So I'm just importing that user. Okay, that's the class I'm using it here, and also a user creation form. So which is exactly this. So with the help of these two, we're actually creating this form. So what I'm doing is this is the form name that I'm going to give, so I can name it whatever I want. So I just chose this name, and it should inherit from this form. Okay, and we need to provide a class meta. So what it happens here is we need to provide a model. So model means is just a table inside a database. So we have a single database called db.sqlite3. We have this SQLite3 database, and if you view this in a graphical SQLite browser, you can see there are tables like user. So since we have this user, we can actually see it. So I'm just providing that table to this model. Okay, so that table we know has fields like username, password, and password 2. So the name of the fields are username, password, and password 2. So we need to give them as a list. So we're just telling, so whenever we are just creating a form, so this is a form, these three fields are the fields that are going to be displayed here. Okay, so this form is exactly what I'm rendering here. I mean, we are just calling the class. So as you can see from this, from the apps forms.py, so dot means from the current folder. So views in the current folder, same folder as forms.py, right? So I'm just importing this everything. So that form includes the user registration form. So I'm creating this empty form and passing it to the HTML. So that's the result of this. Okay, and these are just the if condition. Whatever happens if I click the details. So here is where the validation comes in. Okay, so let me go to the templates register.html. So it actually is actually nothing. So I'll just talk about the extents and details further, but we just need to focus on this bit. So this extends data dashboard based on HTML is just to import this navigation bar that I have in this based on HTML. Okay, and static files we don't actually need it, but crispy forms we'll talk about later. But what I'm exactly doing is this one. So we have a container, we don't actually need it, so we just need a form. Okay, so not to actually submit it, so whenever we click on a button it needs to have a method called post. So inside this form we just actually rendering this form. So these are just for styles, so just a field set and just a form group, so group to in order to make it beautiful. But we can just have this empty form and just a sign up button and with type equal to submit and just uform. So uform is exactly what I've passed in the views.py, right? So this I'm just going to reference here in this way. So I don't actually need this, but if I don't have this page is going to look quite ugly. So crispy form provide that. I'll just talk about at the end of this video. So whenever I click the u form, it'll just render me this form. Okay, so now if I, yeah, that's it. It exactly does only just rendering these forms. So if you fill the details and click on the submit button, yeah, sorry, this is the submit button. These are just the small details that I says. If you already have an account, just go to the login page and that's it. So we won't be needing that. So after rendering this form, so whenever I hit submit, we'll just use this method equal to post. Okay, and then this actually, yeah, it comes to the same URL even if I click the sign in button, right? But this time we'll just have data about the username, password, and password confirmation. Okay, so if I'm, so that's why I'm saying, so if there's, so if this page is rendering after I've clicked the sign up button, it means that it has some data. So this time I am actually creating a form but with request.post. So request.post contains all the details. So if I enter the username like new user 2, and if I have the password 1 and password 2 as this, request.post contains all of these details, and we're just instantiating the same form, but this time we're just passing the data to this. Okay, so what it does is it's kind of like a dictionary. It will assign the values. So username I have entered new user 1 in the forms.py. Yeah, this label is, I mean, it's just label. So this field is going to actually pass this new user 1, and password contains this password and it will be passed to password 1, and password 2 will be passed here, and so on. So that is why we are just giving this, instantiating the form but with extra data now. Okay, but I did not sign up yet, but assume that I've clicked on the button. So this will actually provide, I mean, see some checksum validation. So if I give the wrong password and sign in, it'll just show me that the two passwords didn't match. This means the form is not valid yet. Okay, so just some additional error provided by Django Crispy forms and Django's own form. Okay, I mean this style is provided by Crispy, but it's just Django functionality. Okay, so whenever after the form is valid, so after I have this all these fields correctly passed, I can then save this form. Okay, so saving this form actually saves in the database. So since we have the model equal to user and model contains these three fields, it will automatically save it in the database. So we don't need to create a instance in user object, and we don't need to pass all of these things and then save the object. So this will actually automatically save this user uform.save, and this is just a success message I'm printing. So if I have this testing at 123, testing at 123, it will be a green pop-up here, account created for new user 1. So this form contains username, right? So I'm just going to get the clean data. So clean data, this form is essentially some HTML tags. So clean data gives the correct username object, I mean name, and I'm storing it. And messages is just a Django functionality. I'm just importing from Django.contrib. And success. So request account created for, we need to pass this request object. So every form does take the request object, and this contains the details about our request. So I'm just creating this message. Okay, this green is provided by Bootstrap. I'll just show at last. So crispy forms and those kind of things I'll be showing at the end of the video. But for now, after the user has been created, it will not log in us directly. Okay, so even though we have created a new user, it's not like I'm going to enter the website as logged in. So we're just creating it, but we need to actually redirect them to the login page, right? So I have this view called login. So whenever a login path comes, just providing it a name as login. So I'm just giving this name, so it will just redirect me to this login page, and it will just execute this view, which I will talk about. Okay, so that's it about the login registration page. So since we have whenever a new user comes in, it just creates an object. So now it is going to create this login page. Okay, so register page, we actually created the view ourselves, right? So we just wanted to render an empty form, and it will, whenever there's a sign in button, click, we're just going to perform some validation and save the form and so on. But things like login and logout page are going to be very common in almost every websites. It's because only two fields are going to be there, username and password. So since this is very common, Django actually provides this kind of view by itself. Okay, so I don't need to write a view for login and check these form validation. I mean, render an empty login form, check this validation. Nothing. I don't need to do anything about that. So we just need to do these three things. So first we need to import this thing. So auth views. So like this dashboard, I imported this dash view, right? Django provides a view called login. I mean a login view in this views, and I'm going to implement as auth views. So you can name this whatever you want, but I'm just importing this. Okay. So this says, so whenever a login route comes in, so if I after the localhost or domain name, if I type login, what it's saying is it is exactly executing this view. Okay, but hence here I have this as a function view. So you can see in my use.py, this is just a function. So register def register is not a class, but this view is a class. The view provided by Django is a class. So we need to give this as view. Okay, we like after this login we need to provide as view. So we need to give the template name. So here we just have the HTML where we are just going to render the form. So here we have this form, and I render this form, right? So we just, the styling is up to us, but only the view is taken care of by Django. So we don't need to write this kind of view, but we still need to provide a template, because template is just going to differ for every website. So we just need to give the template name equal to dashboard/login.html. So login.html, I already created it, and name equal to login. Okay, so it is very similar to registration page. I mean, if you see, there's actually no difference involved except the space. Okay, so what I'm just changing a couple of buttons. So I'm just saying like in the register page, if you already have an account, just sign in. If in the login page, if you're new, just if you're new, just create an account. And what I'm doing is that I'm just rendering the form like U form. Okay, in the view step file for register, I have this U form which I'm actually referencing here for the view. So now I'm in the register.py, so U form. But yeah, I provided this context from this register view. But since we are not writing a view for ourselves, since Django provided this view, since Django provided this view, we still need to provide the form. I mean, we don't need to provide the form by means it will provide us the form as the name form. So I had this custom name in my U form which I actually gave, but Django actually gives this form and I'm using crispy. So it will just be given by Django. We don't need to do anything about it. So if I render this form, it will just show me this nice login page. So this is just the additional feature that I have here, but we still need to give it the form and yeah, these kind of things. So the only thing I can also name mine as form to in order to be convenient and conventional. This is what exactly given by Django. Okay, so and similarly we have this logout view. So whenever I click on logout, it will just new user. Whenever I click on logout, it will just take care of all these signing out the user by itself. So exactly, it's just a logout view and we need to provide this logout HTML. So I don't have anything logout HTML. I just need to display what happens after you log in. So I'm just going to display the message as you're logged out, and I'm going to provide a link called login again. So it will go redirect me to the login page. So the URL I gave is this. Instead of inside double quotes, I need to give them inside these curly braces. So this is the Django way of using URLs, and I'm just mentioning it is a URL because sometimes it must be an image. I mean, it can be an image or so on. And I'm just referring this login. Okay, so this login is the name I've given it to the URLs of your right. Sorry, logout. So it will just identify this root and it will execute this view. Okay, so that's what is exactly happening. I'm sorry, login. Okay, in the logout page, I'm actually executing this login view. So it will execute this. Yeah, go to this route and execute this login view and go to this render this HTML form. Okay, so that's it about logging in and logging out. So now let's talk about the Django crispy forms. So here I just have nothing. I just have included this filter. So in order to have Django crispy forms, all we need to do is pip install Django underscore crispy underscore forms. Oh, that's forms. Okay, so after this is installed, we just need to go to the settings.py. So actually there are 5 steps. So first we just saw this step called pip install Django forms, and second step is we need to go to settings.py and add this in the installed apps as crispy underscore forms. So don't forget these commas. So yeah, if you forget this, there will be an error. And then the third step is we need to give this template pack. So it will just render the form according to the bootstrap. So bootstrap 4 will have some beautiful forms. So we're just going to say which kind of bootstrap or anything we're just going to need. It's going to use this template pack. So the third step is over. So in the fourth step in our Django HTML, just going to import this tag. So load crispy underscore forms underscore tags. So this needs to be in a single line. So even if some part of this is in this line, in this upper line, it won't work. So those are the errors that I actually encountered. So after loading this, so we just can use pipe after. So whatever form we are rendering, we can use this pipe operator and call it crispy, and it will show it beautifully. And next I want to talk about is the actual base.html. Okay, so base.html provides the, let me run this server again. So you could have noticed that inside the application, so whenever I am actually logged out, it will just show me only these two buttons, register, login, and so on. I actually need to show options, but I did not. Okay, so whenever after I logged in, testing at 123, the navigation bar changes to profile, options, so it will just show me these kind of things. So it's all provided in the navigation option. It's actually quite easy. So let's open the base.html and talk about what we are doing actually these. So inside this base.html, I have the navigation bar. So we know that the navigation bar and few other things, for example styles and all, will be the same even if I go every website. So I don't need to have the navigation bar fully created in this HTML. So I have everything in this base.html. So every body tag, header tag. Okay, so in the header tag, yeah, I have these, and I'm without, yeah, instead of copying it every time, I'm just extending from dashboard.html. So it's just like saying we just copied the contents of base.html and pasted it here. Okay. So let's talk about the how it is based on user logged in or logged out, this menu of changing. So for the few options I have this. So user is a kind of an object that is actually passed to this base.html. We don't actually need to do anything. So is authenticated, user has a kind of boolean value to indicate if the user is authenticated or not, meaning if the user is logged in, we're just going to show these two options like profile and options. So actually I don't need to make the options as under logged in, but I eventually did. So if the user is logged in, we're just going to display all these. Else, if the user is logged out, it is going to display only register and login and endif. Okay, so we just need to provide these as personal and column. So now we are just executing this Django template language. So it is kind of Python, but it's not Python itself. It differs in very yeah, a lot of things. But whenever we are just using a variable passed in context, so by context I mean in the views.py we're actually passing a dictionary, right? We'll actually call this dictionary as a context and pass the context. So this key, we're just going to use it as these two curly braces, but for executing some Django. One more thing is, inside form, every form you need to give the CSR token. So it's for additional security that Django takes care of to avoid cross-site request attacks. Okay, so since we have this base.html ready, and it will just change according to users logged in or not. And messages. So we saw that a green color message was popped up whenever I clicked on register. So Bootstrap has alert actually class built in. So message.tags, let me go to register views.py. So I'm just saying messages as success. So Bootstrap has lot of message alert, like alert danger, which is shows in red color, and alert success, which shows in green color, and alert info, it shows in blue color, and many of these. So I'm just giving this success as a tag. So messages has a tag called success. Okay, and I am using this as alert success, so it means green. And Django has this messages, right, and it will pass this message here. So if there are many messages, I'll just loop through these messages and I'll just show the message. So the message in our case is this account created for username, right, and it will just be shown here. And if I just going to iterate to this follow-up, so if there is only many messages, I'm just going to render this, otherwise it will show me an error. And one more thing, so you might have noticed that we have this block content here. So this is exactly where this page is going to differ from the base.html. So here I'm just providing space. So whichever files, for example login.html, is going to be inside pasted inside here. So I'm just going to show them here. So I'm just saying block content. So this is where the block called content starts, and this is where the block content ends, and within this code it belongs to this register.html. Okay, so this is where it will be pasted. So if I just having this copy this register.html and paste it here, this base.html will exactly work as register.html. So we have this in every page. So this is the block content that is going to override by this HTML form. Okay, and one more thing at last I want to show is in the views.py. So if I log out and if I try to access any profile, it will not show me because my spelling is wrong. So if I access this profile page, so it will ask me to log in first, because every login user has the profile. So it will vary for every details, right? So without logging in I cannot access my own profile. So if I go to profile, what it asks me for, so first login. So I'm just going to use as test new user testing at 1 2 3. So after logging in, it will just redirect me to this profile tab, so not to the home page and so on. Okay, so that's trick lies in this. Okay, so I have this login redirect URL as home. Okay, so if I log out and use the login option and new user and testing at 1 2 3, and this time it will just go take me to this home page. So by default, if I just go to the login option and login, it will take me to the home page. So this is the name I just passed it in the urls.py, right? Yeah, this view it will be executed. But okay, so it will just pass me to the home page. But if I try to access any options like profile and so on, it will still ask me to log in. But this next equal to profile brings me to, after I log in, goes to this profile page but not to the home page. So that's what provided by this. So if there is any login page by default, I'm just going to redirect to the home page unless and until the user was not trying to access any other page before he was asked to log in. And login URL I'll just show you in a bit. So in the views.py, how did I actually make this profile? So if I try to say this profile, it will just ask me to log in. So how it is, you just need to import these things. Actually we don't need this, we actually need to import login required from this decorator. So whichever view function, I have this view for profile, right? So we'll implement this in next video. But so this view, whenever a user try to access this view, I'm just using this login required. Okay, so that's it. But this login required needs to know where is the HTML page for this, the view for this. So I'm just going to settings.py and assign it login URL. So now it will know that the login URL is in. So if I did not provide this, by default, if I try to access profile, it will just check in the login page in accounts login, but not the login. So I have this login as only login. I don't have any apps like account, and I'm saying to go to accounts.login. If I did have this, the default URL is okay, but since I don't have this, I'm just going to override this login. So now if I say this, it will just search for this URL, and now in this URL it just going to this login view and executing this template. Okay, so that's why we need them. And as we said, Django by default provides this next equal to login. So before we are logging, before logging actually logged in, we are just trying to access profile, right? So it will just go to this profile after we log in. So we don't need to actually go for the profile page again. Okay, so that covers the entire video, and up next we'll be focusing on things like API calls to perform the search. So now we're just going to focus on things like to-do, notebook, and notes. So these three things require databases. So it differs for every users. So one user might have different homework and different notes and so on. So we need to have a database for things like this, but these four options like books, Wikipedia can be accessed by anyone because you're not storing any information regarding that. So with that said, let's talk about the Django models. Okay, so inside our app called dashboard, I have this file called models.py, and I have three tables. Okay, so I have this user table, and I have used it as a foreign key on every one of these tables. So that means this user is actually a table, but Django actually provided it for us. Assume that we have a table called user, and we have this and we have this field called username and password 1, password 2, and so on. So this is exactly provided by this user table, but it is provided by Django since we are just going to use it most of our time. So what we're doing is our nodes are linked to that user table. Why? Because one user is going to have multiple nodes, or it's because I'm sorry, another user might have multiple nodes, and third user might have another multiple nodes for themselves. So for to say that one user table is going to have, one user table is going to have many nodes, we're just going to say by foreign key. So foreign key stands for many to one. That means many nodes can belong to one user. So that's how we are just going to preserve the nodes one for that one particular user. So if there is a field called one-to-one that says one user can have only one nodes, so he cannot have another nodes until he delete the first node. So that might not be good case. So just having this as foreign key. And on delete means, so whenever the user is deleted, his nodes that has created by him will also be deleted. So it will be done automatically. So in this nodes, we're just going to have title and description. Okay, so it's just a character field and description is just text field. So if I go to nodes, okay, and it'll just ask me for this. So this is just the form we are just rendering. Like we had this register form, right? We just gave a model called user, and it rendered all the form fields that it contains for us. So in this way, I'm just going to say that. So this we don't actually need it, but it's just for querying. So whenever I go to my Django shell and query this nodes, it'll say like note object 1, note subject 2, and so on. So I'm just displaying it by title beautifully. It'll say whenever I get the notes of one user, it'll just say the name of the title name of the notes. But that's it. We don't actually do much with it. So it's not anything with the model. Okay. So we have this URLs. So whenever a nodes come in, we just execute this view.nodes. So let's go to this view.nodes here and see what is there. So nodes is in the top, I guess. Okay, so here we have nodes. So in order to render all these titles, it is going to have the forms.py as I just told you. Okay, so let me just show you them, and we don't need to focus about this for now. So we just have this form. So we know that for user we have this model equal to user, but this user creation form, so we just provided a model to the user to this form, and we know that it has tables like username, password, and so on, and just rendered in the register page. So likewise, I'm creating a nodes form. You can ignore everything else and focus only on this 3 or 4 lines. So I'm just creating a nodes form, so I provided a name, and this is just a model form it's going to inherit from. So forms.form means it's not going to be related or dependent to the database. So we have used this dashboard form in everywhere, right? In Wikipedia and dictionary. So this is just a simple form that the user is going to type on something, and we're just using it. So it's not related to any database model. But the nodes is having, it is related to the database. So we have the fields called title and description in this models.py, right? Okay, and we don't need to provide this user, otherwise it won't be good. Actually, the person who is creating nodes should not be able to select which user this note belong to. He can create a note and make it as a owner of someone else, right? So we should not allow that. So we're just providing only title and description, and it will belong to him. So we'll have this logic later on. So what it just says, so whenever I create a notes form, it'll just create these two fields. So it will just be shown here. So in the views.py, so for the first time, if I did not hit the submit button or create button, we'll just render this empty form. Okay, so I'm just passing it as a context to this HTML, and this HTML has the notes.html. So here I just have this form, and you can ignore this for now. So this is just a table which will be printed. So if I create a new notes, it will be a note will be appearing here. So we'll go through that. But for now, we just have the CSRF token because we have a form, and we have this. We are just rendering this form as crispy. So whenever I hit the details and pull it, it'll just again go to this request.method, but this time we're just having this details. So we're just filling this form. So title and description, we're just passing it to this form. I'm sorry, this is not the notes form. Okay, so just passing it to this notes form. So what I'm saying is, if the form is valid, which is it's going to be because I do not have any much restrictions on that. So I'm creating a new notes user. Okay. So what I'm saying is, the request.user is the current logged in user. So whenever I create this model, I have this foreign key user, right? So this user is just going to be the current user object. So I'm creating a new notes, and I'm passing the 3 arguments that are required to make this note possible. So it is provided by this. So I'm just providing these 3 fields, and as an argument to this views. Okay, and this will create the notes for me, and I'm just saving the notes, and I'm printing the messages as successful message. So that's it about, yeah, that's exactly about creating this form. So whenever I have this fake title and some random description. So right now this this descriptions are in this request.post of title, because that's the form field name I gave it, and I'm just giving the title as this, description as this, and this. So these are 3 required arguments. So now to get them more clear, I'm just going to open a new command prompt. Okay, let me just quickly so python manage.py shell. So I'm just going to import all the models that we just so from django.contrib.path.models import user, from dashboard.models import start. So I'm just getting all the tables. So this is the default table provided by Django models we just talked about, and from dashboard.models we are importing, we are just importing everything from here, this user table and these 3 tables. So I'm just getting the user. So user.objects.all tells me that every information about every user. So I have 1 2 3 4 5 6 users created. Okay, so if I want to actually filter by one user, I can say get id equal to 1. So this just give me this user, and if I have this id equal to, it will give me this user. Okay, so what I'm saying is, this is the user object, right? So I'm just going to save it in this user. So now I'm going to create a notes object. So notes of user equal to this user. It's because this user is the required argument, right? And I'm passing it to be this user I just stored, and title equal to hi And one more thing, description equal to some random. So if I close this, it will create a notes for me, but it not actually saved it because I want to do this. Okay, so notes equal to, so if I do notes.save, it is saved. So if I create, if I get objects.all, so it will just give me all the notes that has been ever created, and we have this, right? So this is the fake title that I created, and this is, yeah, yeah, for that user. Okay, so it not print that, but that's what we are exactly doing here. So we're just getting the user, and these are description that I'm printing, and yeah, okay, yeah, this is the notes. Yeah, I did not see it. So this is the note that we have created in this form, but this is the notes that we are actually creating in this graphical way. So title equal to high, right? So when I query it, it just says notes half high. So that's what exactly we are doing, but in this views, Django views. So this is the exact thing. Okay, so I have another functionality like deleting them, and whenever I have this large text, it will just, for example, if I copy the entire program and if I create a new note, yeah, so I created this new note, but it is not showing me the entire text. I just made it to display only 100 characters, I think. So whenever I click on it, it'll just show me the entire text. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. So I'm just creating a card every time it is showed. So for that, let me go to the HTML. So I'm just iterating through these nodes. So before passing the context, I have filtered based on the user. Okay, so this means I'll show the nodes created only by this user. Okay, user equal to request.user, and I'm saving it in nodes. So this nodes will be iterated one every time. Okay, and this will be created. So inside a card, I have this node.title and description, but I've sliced it to only 100 characters. So that's why it shows only one character. Okay, but now one important thing is I have added two features. So one is this detail. So whenever I click on it, it will go to the detail section, and one is the delete. So if I delete this, it will be deleted. So while iterating, I made this entire card to be notes detail and pass the ID of that. Okay, so every note has an ID. So if I'm going to open it or delete it, I need this ID to actually perform it. Okay, so there are two operations, as I said, opening it or deleting it. So for deleting it, I have this delete option. So fa trash is just a font or some trash, and so I have different URLs, but I need node.id in both of these URLs. So node details is just a link I have. I'll go to another this click, and node delete node is just the what happens if I click this delete button. So you can see if I click this, you just go to node detail and pass this primary key. So this ID, this node has the ID of 12. So this is the 12th node. So node detail means, so the URL is node details, but it's going to pass the ID as the argument. So we need this kind of URL to actually pass this. So in the urls.py, I have this node detail, right? So this is the URL we are focusing now. So this path is going to have an argument, I mean node detail, and it's going to be accepting a primary key. And this primary key is going to be an integer because 12 is an integer, right? So whenever this path comes in, I'm going to access this view, and I gave this note as nodes detail, which is of course I'm accessing in this HTML. So this is the ID that is going to pass it as this, and this will be stored in the int format as primary key, and I'm just going to execute this view. So this view is surprisingly very easy. It's only actually one line. Yeah, this is the one line. Okay, So this is a generic detail view. So generic detail view, what it does is, so whenever I click on this anything, so this ID, so I just need to give the nodes model, and it will just fetch me a query like this. For example, nodes dot objects dot all. Okay, but what it does additionally is it has the get equal to parameter. So since I passed the get equal to parameter, so I have this id equal to 12, right? I got this id equal to 12. So this view gets the node objects, and actually it's doing a lot behind these things. Searches this, yeah, it execute this query and pass this node as a context to this nodes detail.html. Okay, so that's what it's exactly doing. So it will be named under nodes, just like login view. We have this form, right? We just have this form and it will be rendered by the HTML itself. So these kind of views is provided by this Django. So nodes.title and nodes.description. So this time I'm just printing all the description without slicing it. Okay, so this URL has to be, I mean, this nodes has to be nodes detail.html. It's because we are let me see. So we are having this detail view, and it's going to import from generic.detail view, and this nodes will actually have this underscore. So we just need to give all this short letter and underscore detail.html. So by default it will search for this HTML template whenever this URL is expected. And here we have the nodes.title and nodes.description. So it's about Django generic detail view. So we need to import from Django views, import generic in order to access these. Okay, so now for the deleting operation. So for the deleting operation, we have this. Yeah, we're just actually passing the same kind of view. So in the nodes.html, we have this delete operation, right? So it will access this URL and also this primary key node.id. So in this view, so it is saying whenever, and yeah, this is the actually function we're executing. So whenever this URL with the primary key is actually requested, we're just executing this delete node function. So this function, we're just getting the nodes.objects.get, and we're just deleting it, and we're just redirecting it to the same page. So in this case, nodes.html. So that's why, sorry, when I go to nodes, it just delete it and it will redirect me to the same page. So it just executing this delete node function, which is here, and I'm just getting the URL. So primary key is what is accepting. So by default, I'm just asking it to be none, but this primary key is passed, right? So I'm just getting the object and deleting it and redirecting it. So that's why it is deleted. So since we have this, everything else is going to be the same. So we'll see about homework and what is it to do in the next video. Okay, so now we have a basic understanding of how nodes are created. The to-dos and homeworks are almost similar, other than except one thing, that to-dos have is completed option. So if I'm going to add to-do 1, so I'll just have this table, and we can also still delete it, but mark as completed will just use this. Yeah, it will change the is finished boolean to true. So that's what we are just going to do. So for that, so let's focus on to do. So whenever the to do request comes in, only this function will be executed. Okay, so it might seem like a lot, but it's actually not very much different to nodes. So for to do, we have this same form. We have this models.py. Okay, so it's going to take exactly 3 arguments, just like nodes, but instead of description is going to have is finished boolean field. Okay, so we'll be able to accessing this. So title and is finished. Okay, so in the forms.py we're just having a model form and having this passing this total model, and we're just passing these exact two fields to this form. So this will be rendered, these two fields will be rendered. If we don't want this is finished to be rendered, we don't actually need it, so this won't be shown. But I actually kind of like it because I think people should be able to get finished tasks as well. So with that said, let's execute the view. So we're just rendering an empty to do. Yeah, it's actually here. So for the first time this will be rendered and it will be executing this condition. So what I'm doing is I'm just filtering what whether the user has created either already existing to-dos. So for the first time, if I refresh this page, it will still show me this in the table if I have any existing to-dos. So I need to get the filter for existing to-dos, and yeah, it's not a big deal. I just want to show this because if there's not any to do, I have to show this message. So I'm just checking if length of the to-dos is 0, that means the to-do list is empty. It's a query set, right? It's just going to return many to-dos. So I'm just making this as true so that HTML will be able to display this. So it's nothing. In order to have this, I'm just passing this as a zip. So instead of directly passing, directly passing the to-dos, I'm passing it as list because I think actually this will be easier to actually loop through. I want to add the serial number. So in order to have the serial number, I need to provide the range from here. If I use ID, it won't be good because this to-do ID will be like 31. According to the user, it won't be shown. So it should be shown according to the list, right? So I just have this range and I passed it in the to-dos. So let's go to the to-do.html. So there will be just rendering the form. So here I'm just rendering the basic form. So this is it, and crispy form, and here I just have the table. So this big thing is just a table I have here. So this is what I'm told you about. So if the list is empty, so if I delete it, it will show this message. So it will not show the table. So that's why I have it. So if the to-dos done is not true, which I passed it here, it will execute this table. Otherwise it will say all task has been completed and end it. So here I'm just having this table data, right? So for every row I'm creating 3 table data. Serial, title, and so on. If I create a new one, title, status, and delete will be the heading. So upload it here and along with serial number, and then I'm passing this serial as here. So since I passed a zip argument here, I just need to iterate with 2 variables, right? So I have to do and serial. So for the first one, I'm just implementing the serial. So 1, if I add another one, just add 2 and so on. But title, status will be same. Okay, so we're just adding this title as another table data, and status. So status will depend on data factors. I'll just show you. And last, we're just having this delete button. Okay. So status. So we just need to access the is finished property. So if I create a to-do with this checked, it comes with this checked property. So that's what I'm saying. If this to-do is finished equal to true, then I'm just going to implement the same input, but I'm going to have this checked. So if it is not finished, I'm not going to have this checked. That's the only difference, and this is just a label that I am marked as completed. Okay, so I'm wrapping this in this entire URL because first let me talk about the delete button. So it is here. So I'm just passing the to-do.id and delete the to do exactly like how I'm deleting the notes. So I just have this view called delete to do. Okay, so in this I'm just getting the ID, right? So the to-do.html, I'm passing this as ID to this delete to do. So what happens is whenever I click on this delete button, it'll go to this URL and pass this argument, and that's what it is in the urls.py as well. It'll just get this argument and it will just delete the to do, okay, and it will redirect it to the same to do page. So that's why it is kind of, it'll go to this URL, but it is actually kind of instantaneous that we can be able to see it. Okay, so it's just rendering this same to do again. So that's why yeah, we are just doing it. So in order to change the check, so whenever I click on this mark as completed, it's just a link. So I'm just wrapping this entire thing as a link. So this ID has, this will go to update to do and to do.id. So whenever I click on this update to do will be updated. So what I'm actually doing here is I'm just getting the current to do and I'm changing, yeah, I'm kind of inverting the to do list. So if it is already marked as completed, I'm just removing, making it as false. If it is already not completed, I'm making it as true. So that's why, so it will go to the URL every time I click this, but I just get the to do that is current to do. So this has a different ID and this has a different ID, but according to that ID I'm just getting it, the current item, and I'm just changing the, inverting the is finished property, and I'm saving it then. So without saving it, it will not be saved to the database. So after saving it, I'm just returning it to do. So this, I have this in both of these is because I'm going to be able to do this exact functionalities in the profile page as well. So if I mark as complete, it should not redirect me to the to-do page, right? So I'm just telling if I request something from this profile page, so request.meta header contains this exact URL. So if profile in this meta header, I'm just going to redirect to profile. Otherwise, I can assume that I am requesting it from the to-do app. So inside to-do app, I have this. So even if I change this, it will allow me to change, be inside this to-do app. Okay, so that is it. Yeah, we are just deleting, and while deleting, we are calling this delete function, and we are updating, we're just calling this update function. So here I just change the is finished property to false, and yeah, I'm just inverting, but deleting will just remove this from this header. And since I'm re-rendering this to-do app, which is here, yeah, it will run this whole function again, and then it will render it so that it will be kind of updated, right? And that is it. So homework is exactly similar. So if I have this homework tab, all I have is just extra fields, right? So that has only titles, but here I have 4 extra columns and just this date. So it will just be the exact table with additional rows, and these functionalities are just the same, but I have 2 different functions for them, like delete, update homework, and delete homework. So delete homework just gets their homework and deletes it, and mark as completed just changes the is finished property of the homework. So we do have forms for every one of these as well. So in these forms we just gave the title of it. For example, in the to-do form, I just have this title is finished, and yeah, exactly what I have this in the models.files, right? So I have subject, so except user, I'm just having this every file, subject, title, description, due, is finished, and so on. Subject, title. So these 5 fields will be displayed in this form, and I'm just having this view to actually save it exactly like this. All I have this additional subjects and so on. So since with that in done, let's see the profile. So profile is just exactly same, but whenever I'm just showing only the filter by this. So let's go to profile. So profile is just contains to homework and to do as well. Okay, but what is saying is finished equal to false. So if you see the to do option, if I add another one, if I create another one, so it will just show me even if I click it. Okay, so it's just showing me all the three things. But if I go to profile, it will show me only the two things that has not been completed. But if I mark as complete, it will be gone, but it will be in the to do as well. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm just filtering not only based on user but also where is finished equal to false. So is finished equal to false means it will show only the mark as completed unchecked. So that's what I'm filtering, but I'm doing for to do as well. I mean homework as well. So if I add new homework, so for example some random things, issue. So I'm just, if I go to profile, it will show me the two things. So in the HTML I have created two tables and rendered them exactly like this. Okay, this for, so if I don't have anything, it will just show me all to-dos are completed. Okay, so it is just exactly the same, but I just have, instead of homework done, I just have both to-dos and homeworks and rendered in the profile.html. Okay, so up next we'll be implementing the code conversion, and that will finish our project. Thank you. This is going to talk about the conversion. So this is just a simple, so this is also a form. So if I select one of these and hit select, so this is just submitting the form and it renders another form. So here I'm just I'm just asked to change the enter the options. So actually there are three kind of forms in action. So length generates, so this is a form and this generates one form, this is, and this generates another form like this. Okay, so for that I have in the form set, let me close all of these and whatever. So in the forms.py I have these three forms. Okay, so I have just only two fields for this. So measurement is just one field, so it's going to be a radio field, and other forms, so the length form is going to have three fields, so they are input, measure 1 and measure 2, and the conversion form, mass form, is going to have another three fields. Okay, since we are not using JavaScript, it's just going to reload the page every time, and we are quite going to implement this in the same. So since we are just implementing the same page without redirecting to another page for one of these, this just involve two forms at the same time. Okay, so this is the syntax for, so character field is going to have a text field, is just a text field, but character field with label equal to false. So I'm not showing any label for this, but I'm having a type equal to number. So type says this kind of property, so it will allow only numbers I cannot type in letters, and placeholder equal to enter number. So so before entering it just asks me enter the number, right? Yeah, that's one. So those are two kinds, and I have the choice. So this is going to be what is displayed in this one. So pound as and kilogram as they are capitalized, and this is just going to be the variable like that we are going to access with. Okay, so I provide this in a list of tuples, and likewise for length as well. I have these three forms. So now in the views.py I have this conversion. So this is almost very similar. So first time just initiating this conversion form. So conversion form is just this one, this measurement or this radio button, So after this means input equal to false, so I don't have any input selected. So here, after I have selected it, I want it to remain to be selected, and now we're just rendering this form. Okay, so measurement. So measurement contains this choice. Sorry, yeah, measurement means the radio form from this choice. So if the measurement is length or mass, I'm going to change the contents based on those. So if the measurement is selected to be length from this choice, I have this if condition, I'm going to execute this. Or if it has been selected mass, I'm going to instantiate a different form, okay, conversion mass form, and I'm going to execute this. So if the measurement, which is this selection, is length, I'm creating this instantiating this length form. Okay, so yeah, this is the length form that contains 3 fields. So I'll be passing it to a context, but I'm not yet passing it to the context. I'm just creating this context. But if there is input in this post, it means I have this input. So for the first time, if I just use this request.post measurement, it won't work. It will return me error because this is the actual form we are rendering. Right now, it does not have any input. So if I try to use like request.post of input, it will show me an error. So first I'm checking if the input is in request.post. I can use the request.get method to return, so to avoid any error, but this is also fine. So if there is any input, that means this form has been selected and there has been input, that means this form has been activated. Okay, so this button has been clicked. So this button will be clicked only, this input will be available only if we click this button. Okay, so and we are just getting the measure 1 value. So this is the value of the measure 1 and this is the value of measure 2, right? In this form that we have this measure 1 and measure 2 to be this drop down select choices. Okay, so this is just a syntax. I'm getting all of these 3 inputs, 1 foot or yard and foot and yard. So I have these 2 combinations only. Okay, so I just want this input to be greater than 0, and also there has to be an input. I did not have any validation to check if the form is empty or not. So I do need to give this input, and then I have this greater than 0. So there are 2 combinations, right? Yard and foot and yard. So if the first is measure is a foot or this combination, I'm having a simple formula. So it says, oh yeah, yard is equal to foot. So that means if I have 2 entered, we'll say 2 yard equal to 6 foot. So I found that like 1 yard contains 3 feet length. So I just have this formula calculator and displaying it as here. So I'm just passing this context as answer here. So right now I'm just adding this context as input equal to true. Okay, so this will be, I'll be using it in the forms in HTML, but right now this is the context I've generated. And for this, likewise, the same way, I'm just having this mass, and this time the measurement will be equal to mass because this is selected. And now I have this 2 types of inputs. Okay, it's because I have this conversion form selected, and at the end I'll just pass it as a context. So like the previous way, I'm just getting 2 kinds of inputs, pound and kilogram. I'm pretty sure there will be a more efficient way instead of having if condition for everything. But yeah, we can say 1 input equal to 0.523 kilogram. So if I just found this from Google, that 1 pound is equal to 0.5245 kilogram, and 1 kilogram will be equal to 2.2. So I'm just multiplying it with the input. So if I have kilogram to pound, I think it will be around 4.4. So in the HTML, so I'm just rendering the forms based on these. Okay, so first this will be rendered always conversion form. So this form will be rendered, but this form will be rendered only on 2 conditions: if the measurement is selected to be mass, and the measurement is active to be length. And then I'm just getting the input, calculating them, and retaining the answer in the context and displaying it in the HTML, which is conversion.html. So this is the first form I'm displaying, and actually I have this only single form tag but two submit buttons for the same form. So that's why there's always some if conditions about that. So this form is just a conversion form, but here I just want it to be in three in same row. But if I have this like form crispy, it'll just have it in big ones. So it'll just have spawned across 3 lines. So I don't want that. So I just manually have this as input. So I'm just getting the mform.input, all three fields, measure 1 and measure 2, and I'm having this filter as crispy field, and it will render me only one or selected input at the time. So after submitting, I'm just getting the answer and printing it here. Okay, so that's the answer it's printed. So that covers it for the tutorial, and yeah, we have implemented every functionality of this. Thank you.